Sonic Universe issue 51. It's really unprofessional and confusing to have this come out before Sonic Universe issue 50. That won't matter 2 years from now when they finish 50 though, but still, what official comic does that? And I'm not as hyped about as I could be because I know that it's Sonic Universe, which insists on being nothing but story arcs. And it even says part 1 of 3 on the cover. So the individual stories don't have as much value because they're just a small part of a whole instead of wrapping up the whole plot thread in one story. I don't know why Bunny can't just fly back to the Nanite City with her new legs and tell Nicole to get rid of the explosives in her with her nanites in 3 seconds, but I guess she's just that stupid. That's why she joined the Legion in the first place instead of just asking Rotor to make her new cyborg limbs. We start out in the Great Desert, where Jack's thugs are busy threatening and bothering Dark Egg Legionnaires. I love that we actually see what they look like under the hoods, and they're not just red alien blobs like in the cover. A threatening looking green guy threatens some Legionnaires with a sword, calling them scum, and then he gets punched by the cyborg arm of someone with a wedding ring on. I guess that's Bunny. Ooh, she looks badass. I like that her cyborg limbs look purple, not gray, so they look feminine and it suits her. The thugs go after her, recognizing her. She punches them and scares the thugs off. It was a pretty good decision to have the freedom fighters that Bunny's fighting as a Legionnaire be the unlikable thugs that worked for Jack, so she doesn't come off as a bad guy who would have good reason to be ashamed of this. I'm still waiting for an explanation for why Bunny can't just go home though. She has her cyborg parts, she got what she wanted. At least she looks depressed and annoyed at being complimented by Eggman's troops. She says that she's just doing what she needs to do. Why does she need to do it? She could just be written to say, I want to spend more time with my uncle, but even that's stupid. She does have explosives in her, right? I'd like a reminder of that so she doesn't look so stupid staying here. She walks away sadly, and then we flash back to a few weeks ago where Bunny is brought to her uncle who is trying to think of a good plan against Jack's thugs. After all, he has to humor Eggman. The Legionnaire says that Bunny surrendered immediately and it confused him, and Matilda and him give Bunny and her uncle some privacy. So that means that this takes place before the whole Matilda and Mighty story arc, because there, Beauregard said that he knows how it feels to have a strange family, and then Bunny walked in, implying that that was when she first joined him. But I'm all for retconning what Flynn wrote. It makes much more sense that Bunny would have to be brought to her uncle by a Legionnaire, and she couldn't just casually walk in. After some depressing silence from Bunny, she reluctantly tells her uncle that she needs him to Legionize her. No, she doesn't. She can get Rotor to do it. He gives her a hug and wants to know what happened. If the writer has common sense, he'll make the ensuing recap either be totally cut past, since we know all of it, or he'll restrain it all to as little panels as possible. We already know why she made the stupid decision, and we've got enough pages wasted on redundancy as it is. I could have assumed she was fighting Jack's thugs. That's not plot progression. It's very hard for me to turn my cynicism off when I'm reading late Archie. The comic was left in such a mess. Oh, thank God they skipped past the explanation. As we say text box, say an explanation later. And naturally, they're both sad about it. Bunny's uncle is portrayed as a douchebag, as he says he doesn't have sympathy for Antoine or Sally. And Bunny's naturally furious. I really don't see why he'd be like this. He's only working for Eggman reluctantly. He doesn't actually like and support him. Just because Flynn insisted on writing him as hating Antoine and his family doesn't mean that should ever be referenced again. This just feels like pointless family drama coming out of nowhere. I just expected him to be sympathetic to her. I don't think he's even met Sally and Antoine, so why the flying fuck would he hate them so much that he doesn't care about them? One of them got roboticized and the other got put in a coma. Besides, he clearly looked upset when he saw that Sally was roboticized. So this is a very dumb panel. Very, very dumb. And why does Bunny think that her uncle's stubbornness has put them through anything? Huh? Her uncle explains that the Acorn royalty had tore down his government and stole all his riches. That doesn't sound characteristic of the Acorn royalty at all. They've always been portrayed as good guys, if not necessarily smart. They're not the Overlanders. It's interesting, but very out of place considering the whole history of the Acorn royalty. If they were really that evil that they go out of their way to ransack and ruin her uncle's city for no reason, why did the king decide to dismantle his military because just the Overlanders were defeated? Why did the king's ancestor not go after a kid for revenge when he killed his son? Why did the first King Acorn ever decide to unite the various peoples and pool their knowledge instead of just warring with them? The Acorns were never warmongers. Bunny's uncle reveals that what Bunny's parents did was heroic, and they were the original freedom fighters. Why? We're not told what exactly they did, so I don't care. This kind of history only started in Flynn's writing, so it's no surprise that once again it completely contradicts the comic before him and just ends up being confusing. Like how he tried to have us believe that it was really the heroes' old base in issue 160 when it wasn't underground. It was just in the side of a mountain. And it was apart from the Great Forest. There's no indication the Acorn royalty were warring with anybody other than the Overlanders. And as sad I am, Bunny was childhood friends with Sally and Antoine and grew up with them. She wasn't meant for this. Bunny reveals that because they were fighting in the war, her parents left her behind, only to be killed by the people they were conspiring with. Why? And we're not told why immediately, so I'm just confused. Her uncle confuses me again because he tells her to respect the memory of her aunt, and not her parents who she was calling out. Unless it was her aunt that murdered her parents, in which case, why the fuck would her uncle be telling her to respect her memory? I don't feel like this is well written. I'm just frustrated. I wish Flynn had just made Bunny cyborgize herself in the Nanite City and kept it simple instead of requiring this arc to be written to clean up his mess. If he wanted to have her be part of the Legion so bad, he should have just brainwashed her. Normally Archie, Sonic, and Lion is effortlessly fantastic, but it's nearly impossible for it to be truly good when it's stuck cleaning up the mess that Flynn left it, because then it's busy resolving plot points that made zero sense to happen to begin with. And that makes it look badly written because it's using them. I guess there was really no way to make the story concept good. Bunny just looks like an idiot. I'm surprised that even her uncle said that legionizing herself was a bad idea. And yet he still ends up doing it anyways. Logic would dictate that he would instead tell her to get Rotor or Nicole to cyberguise her. But that required logic, instead of just blindly following Flynn's ideas for the sake of following them without giving a shit about writing the best you can. Who cares if it's what Flynn wanted to write? If even her uncle thought this was a stupid idea, that just makes it even more stupid that he humored her. I can't be totally positive about a story that's still wrapped up in Flynn's mess. I can't wait until 40 years from now when Archie, Sonic, and Lion has resolved all of his major plot threads and moved on already. Then they'll be able to reach their true potential. I can't wait to see what kind of a golden age that'll be. Bunny's uncle says that Bunny would have bombs in her if she was legionized, and instead of him suggesting another way, like would be common sense, he just expects her to reconsider and she refuses. I don't see how he's the stubborn one. Well, he is in his douchebaggery. But what I mean is that it's very hypocritical and unself-aware of her to call him stubborn. Her stubbornness is one of the biggest reasons why she's not intelligent. Like, she insisted on staying in the Nanite City multiple times even though the Iron Queen was there. And just to add some forced drama we really didn't need, out of nowhere, a surgeon tells Bunny that the process of legionization will be incredibly painful. Because, you know, anesthesia to knock her out just doesn't exist. I guess it makes sense that Eggman would want to make it painful. But we didn't need that to be written, damn it. He says that it'll take her body a month or two of rehabilitation to get through the pain and return to normal functions with the new limbs. This is so fucking stupid. This is so dumb. Bunny didn't have this problem when her limbs were just roboticized. And isn't legionization just roboticizing very specific parts of someone? I can tell this is by a fanfiction writer. No professional writer would make it needlessly dark like this for no reason. I certainly wouldn't have written this, or even considered it. I don't understand why this would happen. I mean, people get bionic limbs in real life. Buster had a bionic hand in Arrested Development, and I don't remember it taking months of painful recovery to get back to normal. You would just have a bionic limb, and that's it. It's simple. Did the writer hate Bunny? Is that why he wanted her to suffer so badly? Because I can't think of any other explanation for this. We cut back to the present day as I wish the last page didn't exist to waste comic space. Bunny's standing in the desert, and she's told that Eggman needs an oil shipment made to the Dragon Kingdom for a new project. I like that the Legionnaires don't know what it's for at least, so they're not totally in the know. This gets me excited. Then out of complete nowhere, we learn that there's a Commissar Lisette now, and she's being put in charge of this shipment. Huh? Where'd she come from? Aren't the Commissars at the rank of the sub-bosses, since Lianda was one? Or do they have Commissars working under the sub-bosses now? This seems very redundant and confusing. We could just not have her exist. It really doesn't help that her design sucks. It's very hard for me to be positive when talking about late Archie. I'm glad the story exists at least, but I wish it just get a move on. We could have just had the story be about her going on a mission for Eggman. It's not that hard. Lisette, is told to go with Bunny and ensure that Eggman's oil shipment gets to the Dragon Kingdom safely, and they'll leave in an hour, so they had to make the preparations. Why would they need an hour to prepare for this? Why can't they just leave now? I thought they were just about to leave. Why wouldn't they only be told about this right before they're gonna leave? What preparations do they need? Just go in the UFOs! Bunny's uncle warns Bunny that Eggman's just looking for an excuse to blow her up in response to failure, so if she ruins his plan, she'll be destroyed. Why didn't he just blow her up the minute she became legionized? I mean, he doesn't need her! I guess it's because, like with Mecha Sally, he wants to take advantage of having a freedom fighter on his side for all it's worth. And he can't boast about it to Sonic, or he'll know where to go to get Bunny back. But what an idiot! Doesn't he want to win? He has so many Legionnaires already, why would it matter if she's working for him too? Why doesn't he just blow her up right away if he knows that she's a Legionnaire now? The story would have had more logic to it if it didn't tell us that Eggman knows Bunny's on his side now. Which he doesn't have to know. Bunny's uncle could have kept it a secret, couldn't he? But since he does know, oh my god, ugh! It doesn't work. I really wish these writers had the confidence to just write their own ideas. Because they would be so much better off not going with what Flynn wanted. Where all but 40 of his stories were so forced by plot holes that they never should have happened at all. And now this story too. Why wouldn't he blow her up the first chance he gets instead of waiting for an excuse? Come to think of it, what about the bomb in Mecha Sally forced it to have a time limit to be generous to the heroes instead of just blowing up right away when she was told to self-destruct? Anyways, Bunny's only hope is that during her time being a Legionnaire, she'll accidentally stumble into Sonic. I guess her cybernetic legs don't let her fly super fast, because that'd be begging for her to go home with them before Eggman could find out and blow her up. And the Legionnaires working for Bunny are sympathetic towards her. At least we're avoiding that kind of drama, and they're not treating her like she doesn't belong. I can't imagine any of them would ensure she get blown up by telling Eggman that she's heading home. But if they didn't, they'd get blown up because he blamed them for her loss. So maybe they would destroy her. It goes to show you how confusing Flynn's writing is, that it requires such a long time to explain and justify why the whole story arc even happened, and why it doesn't prematurely end. Sure, this isn't by Flynn, but it's following his idea, so it might as well be. At least we see a soft side to Bunny to lighten the mood a tiny bit, as she goes out of her way to visit Matilda when she's recovering. But I don't understand why she's recovering! Why didn't she just recover right away? I mean, she's got a new cyborg arm, okay. So why does that require a recovery time? It's a robot arm! It doesn't need slow recovery and adjustment to the body. It would be made to work right away, wouldn't it? Why is she still in bed? And Bunny wastes a few panels angsting. I could have assumed she missed what she's lost. So an entire page was wasted, where once again I'm just left questioning the logic. Also, her name's Matilda, not Tilly. So what kind of short form is that? I'm at the 13th page of the story, and we're just now getting to actual plot progression. Everything before this was just a flashback finally showing us how Bunny's conversation with her uncle went. And then, shockingly, another page is wasted. Though at least it's good for Matilda's character, as we see her saying that when she lost touch with her feelings, she became cold and distant. She doesn't want that to happen to Bunny. And she reassures her that people will always care about her. That's good, but the plot isn't progressing yet. I wouldn't be so cynical about this. This heartwarming and sad moment where Bunny's crying, if the story made sense, but I can't take a tragedy seriously when it doesn't make sense to begin with. I would have preferred to just have a story about Bunny doing the mission and kept the conversation with her and her uncle as short as possible. After some more panels are wasted, we kept up Bunny in the UFO on the way to the Dragon Kingdom. At least it humanizes Lyseth to have her say that she's never been to the Dragon Kingdom before and wonder what it's like. They spot some sandblasters up ahead. Rather than continuing to fly over them with their UFOs and effortlessly ignore them, they think they need Bunny to beat them up. And Bunny gets hit with something and is surrounded by yellow electricity, making her scream in pain in one hit. Bunny falls over from the EMP, as I wonder if her getting kidnapped is going to be the excuse for delaying her plot thread getting wrapped up properly, and making this an entire arc in the first place. In which case, it wasn't worth it. I'd rather a story idea as inherently forced and stupid as this get resolved as fast as possible. Why didn't Eggman just blow her up already? This could count as a failure, so why won't he blow her up after this? What took Jack so long to use an EMP against cyborgs? Jack personally taunts her and puts her in a cell, and wastes time taunting her some more over there, because her time wasn't wasted enough as it is. Everyone wants to read about generic one-dimensional villains with no appeal to them boasting. This is why Archie sucks ass at villains. Nearly all of them are just heartless one-dimensional monsters, from Jack's thugs to Mogul and Ixis to the Destructics. And that's not interesting, that just makes me wish they all got blown up. Jack thanks her for all that oil. And he says that he'll get stuff off her uncle too, because he'll do anything to get her back. So, the thugs got the oil? But Bunny's Legionnaires were flying above them in UFOs! She was the only one who approached them! Are you telling me they couldn't fly high enough to avoid their tank shots from the ground? Seriously, why were they flying so low to the ground that there would even be a chance of them getting attacked from it? What's the point of having UFOs if you're not going to take advantage of them properly? Like, they have UFOs against tanks. You think they would just effortlessly win? Shoot them all with lasers. They have the advantage, don't they? Guess not. I'm just frustrated by the sheer idiocy of all these characters. And that's what justifies the entire plot. This is Flint's writing all over again. I feel like Flint's dangling plot thread story concepts are just tainted because they have no logic to them at all. None of them would have logically happened. So anytime they're used, it reflects badly on the story and I can barely enjoy it. It's interesting to read, but that's about it. These writers would really be better off doing their own thing. But instead they're stuck wrapping up Flint's mess with the end of the Freedom Fighters arc. I guess Bunny's new cyborg limbs don't let her shoot lasers or give her super strength, because if they did, she'd have no excuse for not breaking out of the cell the first chance she got. I don't see why her cyborg limbs wouldn't have those abilities when they would be nothing but beneficial to Eggman. What's the point of making her no more capable than the rest of the Legionnaires? At that point, why have her around at all? And why am I expected to believe that she's so much more capable than them, that things really turned around when she joined them? I hope she was just waiting for Jack's thugs to come to her face to face so she could break out and beat them up for revenge. But even then, it would have been much smarter for her to break out when they weren't there. Well then again, if she broke their limbs during that breakout, that'd be a pretty good idea of her because then they wouldn't be able to bother her for a while. So maybe that's what she's banking on. Confusingly, when Bunny asks Jack how he plans to torture her, he looks horrified, and then he stammers that she'll have to wait to find out. So either one, this is implying that he's above torture, when he was portrayed as nothing but a one-dimensional monster for most of his run, and might have even said that Jack and his thugs were sick people, or two, he just didn't think of the torture method yet in all of that time, which doesn't seem likely either. I prefer the first option so he could be an actually believable character finally. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still supposed to be a freedom fighter, which means he wants to make the world better by fighting Eggman's forces. He's just so spiteful that he's obsessed with revenge. That's what makes him come off as a villain. But if that's the case, if he wants revenge, why wouldn't he want to torture her while he's at it? He already tried to send all the Robians to Sandblast City after her. So wouldn't that mean he was intending to kill her? So why doesn't he kill her already? But I'd rather characters be portrayed as too sympathetic. I take that as an out-of-character moment any day of the week over characters being uncharacteristically hateful or stupid. I wish Flynn made the characters too nice. He leaves someone named Scarlet, who isn't red at all, in charge of her cell, and tells Bunny that she should hope her usefulness lasts a while, because once she outlives it, he'll publicly execute her himself, right after he implied that he's above torture. Huh? Why doesn't he kill her already? Why does he think she's useful at all when she's just stuck in a cell? That's stupid! She can still work as a hostage dead, as long as her friends don't know she is. And that's the end of the issue. Right there. Wait, the issue's writer is seriously named Ian? Well, that's quite a coincidence. Is that name just cursed? Because he's writing exactly like Flynn to me. And he started the comic just barely before Flynn started writing it. Great. I really hope that he read the rest of the comic before that point, though that would explain why he got the Acorn royalty so wrong. Okay, so this story starts out by finally showing us what Bunny and her uncle's conversation together was like before he legionized her. It goes as you'd expect, right up until Bunny's uncle starts being a douchebag who has no sympathy for Sally and Antoine for no real reason at all. And there's some new history about the Acorns warring with Bunny's people that's completely incompatible with the comic's history as we know it. The Acorns wouldn't do that. Anyways, after all of that, I'm just left wondering why Bunny didn't become a cyborg with Rotor's help, and why the fuck her uncle didn't suggest that from the start. Bunny gets cybernetics with explosives in it, because that's such a smart idea. And when Eggman's revealed to know that she's a Legionnaire now, I immediately wondered why he didn't just blow her up already. What an idiot! It just barely makes sense because he didn't blow up Mecha Sally the first chance he got either. So I guess that's in character for him. But when she got captured by Jack's thugs, because she apparently doesn't have any of her cool signature abilities anymore despite being a cyborg again, I'm left to wonder why Eggman doesn't blow her up from that, since that's a pretty big failure. Why didn't the Legionnaires with her fly their UFO so high that they wouldn't even be noticed, let alone see Jack's thugs? I was expecting them to already be in the Dragon Kingdom at that point. But nope, that'd mean the pacing would be too fast. So instead, because we want to pad things out for a whole story arc instead of just resolving it one issue, Bunny gets captured by Jack's thugs because she and her team are complete morons. And she doesn't instantly break out of her cell because I guess she's just not capable of doing that with her limbs. Which really makes me wonder what the appeal is of using her as a character this much if she lacks every special ability she's known for. Even Sad AM Bunny would be able to break these bars with super strength. This is like robbing Sonic of his super speed. The only thing she's got in common with our Bunny at this point is that she's an idiot. You'd think it'd be common sense of Eggman to give all of his Legionnaires cybernetic limbs that give them super strength at the very least, and laser shooting powers at best. Bunny had super strength the minute she was half roboticized, and what is legionization if not half roboticization? So if the justification for Bunny being wimpified now is that she's undergone the same legionization process as everyone else, well, that just makes Eggman look like a complete idiot. Like, really? The only reason he's cybergizing people is to put bombs in them. Because if they don't have super strength or anything, then that's the only benefit to making them cyborgs that he's giving them. And that doesn't make any sense because Bunny had super strength with her cyborg limbs from the start. That established a rule in the Sonic series that robotic limbs have super strength. Therefore, I was hoping that she would break out of her cell and beat up Jack's thugs in this very issue. But here, she's just a kidnapping victim and needs to be saved later as a damsel in distress. I'm interested in the story arc because it's Archie, but I'm very frustrated at how forced the whole plot is, all because the writer felt the need to follow Flynn's idea to the letter, just for the sake of following it to the letter, when I would have much rather had a story that made sense to happen the way it did. But I guess I didn't have a choice but to make her a Legionnaire, because if she didn't Legionize herself, then why didn't she just instantly go home after she ran away from home if her uncle turned her down? Which would have been much more logical. But that's not what Flynn went with, so the issue is not allowed to make sense. Instead, Bunny joined the Legion to get cybernetics with bombs in her that Eggman should be exploding right away, when she could have easily just asked Rotor for help instead. Remember when Nate Morgan gave her new cyborg limbs? It's that easy! But the entire justification for her becoming a Legionnaire is that she's just that much of an idiot! And the entire justification for Eggman not blowing up his longtime enemy is that he's just that much of an idiot. That's pretty flimsy justification for a plot. But I guess they really are that stupid. So I guess the plot isn't forced, just confusing. to the point where it feels forced, and that's not much better. Archie Sonic's interesting, at least, but I did not miss how frustrating it was. I really wish they weren't entangled and wrapped up in Flint's mess and could just write their own stories. It just makes them look bad when they're forced to use ideas that were forced to begin with.